Good evening.
Good evening.
This week's Torah portion, Toldot, or Toldos, it is to be found on page 124, beginning on 124. The Torah portion begins, and these were the offspring of Isaac, son of Abraham. And goes on to say that Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak. And when Yitzchak was 40 years old, he got married. And he prayed, him and his wife, Yitzchak and Rivka, prayed for children because she was unable to have children. Interesting that she was unable to have children, just like Sarah was unable to have children. And just like Rachel would also be unable to have children. And each one, the birth of their children came about not in a regular way, but with a special intervention. And in the case of Sarah, it was after circumcision, with that Yitzchak was born. In the case of Yitzchak and Rivka, it was through prayer. He prayed for children. He had children. And interestingly, it says that although it says that they were both praying for children, Yitzchak prayed opposite his wife, so they were both praying. It says that God responded to his prayer. Our sages asked, what about her prayer? She was just as great. So why did God respond to his prayer? They were both praying for children, and God granted the prayer. It was their prayer. Why his prayer? Our sages say that Yitzchak, in addition to being a righteous man himself, he also had the merit of his father. And that was why his prayers were answered speedily. Rivka on her own, she was a very righteous woman, but her father wasn't such a righteous person. So she didn't have the merit of her ancestors to help her as well, which is also another reason why we, when we pray, we mention in the beginning of the prayers, Hashem, the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, the God of Yaakov. We mention our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, our God and the God of our fathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, that in their merit, God should answer our prayers quickly, even if maybe in our own merit, we don't deserve it. So she becomes pregnant, and finally, miraculously, because she was naturally unable to have children, so miraculously she becomes pregnant, but her prayers are answered, and the pregnancy is very difficult, and she now says, why do I need that? If this is what I was praying for, I would have been better off if God would not answer my prayers. What do I need this for? This is so difficult. And our sages say, pregnancy is difficult. That's, sometimes pregnancy is difficult. Why such an extreme reaction? That if it's so difficult, why do I need this? Our sages say that it wasn't just difficulty, because usually pregnancy is difficult. You go to the doctor, and here instead of going to a doctor, she goes to seek out prophecy to find out what's going on. Our sages say that her challenge was, or what was bothering her was, that she felt that inside there was a pull towards holiness, and there was a pull towards impurity. When she would pass, the Midrash says, when she would pass the house of study, there was knocking on the door to come out. And she was passing a place of idol worship. The child wanted to come out, and she was worried that this was a confused child. And therefore, when the word of Hashem through the prophecy of Shem and Ever came to her that she has twins, and that these twins would not just be twins, but they would be very different. They'd both be very great, but different. And one would rise, the other one would fall. Now it made sense. This wasn't the same child, this was two different children. And two different children, then the child is each one's a healthy child. It's different. If it was one child, then it's a very problematic child. That said, our sages ask here, what's going on? How could you have two children? Before they're born, they already have tendencies to be wicked or to be righteous. Tendency to be righteous, okay. But a child, before the child is even born, the child should already be kicking to come out for idol worship. What kind of free choice does that child have? And as we know, the very important rule that we all have freedom to choose our behavior, and we're not compelled to be righteous or to be wicked. How is it possible that Rivka is getting this news about the children, and that she's experiencing this, that these children are from the get-go? You have a child like Esau. How can this be? And this same question is really also later in the Torah portion. After, towards the end of the Torah portion, we read about how Yitzchak felt he was going to pass away, and he wanted to give the blessings to his son Esau. And here too, the challenge is, the difficulty is, yes, Yitzchak was blind, and yes, Esau tried to deceive his father, as the Rashi comments from the Medrash, that Esau would ask questions as if he's very, very pious, like how do you give maaser from salt? It doesn't grow, it's a mineral. How do you give 10%? When do you count the new crop, of salt? So appearing or giving the impression that he was so concerned about doing the right thing that he had these questions. But that still, Yitzchak, being a very wise man, very great tzaddik, could he have been completely fooled by Esau and think that he is the best and that he is greater than Yaakov? How could he possibly be wanting to give those blessings to Esau? So, our sages explain that really nobody is born a wicked person. What Esau was born with was tendency to be wicked, but not that he was forced to be wicked. The Rambam, he describes two types of people. There's the Chassid HaMe'ula. He's the pious person, the highest level. He is perfect, and in the words of the way that the language of the Tanya, he's called a tzaddik. He just wants to do only good things, only the right thing. He doesn't have a push inside that he has to fight. He doesn't have a desire to do anything that is not appropriate or wrong. He wants to do the right thing. He's excited about doing the right thing. The tzaddik wakes up in the morning. He's feeling love for God. He wants to run to do mitzvahs. That's a tzaddik. Then you have the one who conquers his inclination. He conquers his animal soul, his animalistic nature. He has a nature, he wakes up in the morning and he wants to do things that are not good. Or he wants to be very selfish. He's not excited about doing any holy and good things. But he overcomes that nature and does the right thing anyway. And that is something which can be even greater than the one who doesn't have any desire to do anything wrong to begin with. So when Rivka finds out that she has twins, what she's really finding out is not that she has one good one and one bad one, but she's finding out she has one that's naturally driven to do good things. He naturally wants to be a tzaddik. And this other one, he's jumping out to go to the house of idol worship, but not that he's forced to go there. That's what he wants to do. But he has the power to overcome it. That's a very, very important principle, that regardless of how difficult the challenges that we have are, if we have such a challenge, that's a sign that we also have the ability to overcome those challenges. Hashem doesn't give us a challenge that's too difficult for us. Which really shows that if you have a very strong Yetzer Hara, if you have a very strong evil inclination, you must have the equal and greater strength to resist it. So really, Esav had potential to be even greater than Yaakov. Yaakov does the right thing, a big deal. That's all he is interested in doing, and he doesn't have a big challenge to do it. But if Esav does the right thing, that requires even more power and strength, which is much greater accomplishment to transform the negative into positive. But that's if you succeed. If you succeed, that's greater. And if you fail, then you just end up with a wicked person. So, later on in the Torah portion, after they're born finally, we read about how Esav goes hunting. The hunting itself, that's his nature, and if he uses it in the proper way, he can elevate it. He can hunt, and use his what he catches for good purposes. He can use his strength in a good way. But Esav comes home from hunting, and what's his attitude? Not that he's using it in a good way. His attitude is reflected in the story, which is told about how he comes home hungry and tired, and he sees that Yaakov is cooking up lentils, or sages say that it was the Shiva for Avraham. Their grandfather Avraham had just passed away, and this was a meal of mourners, lentils being round, representing the cycle of life. So he's having a lentil dish, and Esav says, demands to be fed this dish, and Yaakov says, I'll let you have it if you sell me your firstborn rights. And Esav shows no respect for the firstborn rights. The firstborn rights, the tradition says that in that time, before the switch from the firstborn to the Kohen, you know that this is something the Kohen and the rabbis, right? Before the Kohen was the firstborn. The firstborn was the one that would be doing all the important spiritual, representing the family, spiritual service, representing the family before God. As the firstborn was the one that had that responsibility, together with the extra inheritance and the blessings, which are also both spiritual and material, but mostly spiritual. Now, Esav's attitude is, sure, no problem, I'll sell it to you. Now, if we wouldn't have the verse in the Torah that says Vayivez Esav es Abchara, that Esav spurned, yeah, the unusual word, but he kind of showed he despised it, he didn't care for it. That's that we wouldn't know. Maybe we would say, it was a desperate deal. He really was hungry, and that he had no other choice. He had to sell it. Well, what Esau said is, "I'm going to die. What do I need the bchara for?" If he was really going to die, unless he had some food, then that wouldn't be, showing disrespect for the bchara. It was like, I'm trying to save my life, so I'm agreeing to it. But that's what he said. But he did not show that he cared for the bchara. So he sells it. So we know that he's on a bad path. In fact, our sages say that day, that was the day that Avraham died. Avraham passed away on that very day. And why did Avraham die on that day? He died so he should not see Esav going off to bad behavior. Esav was 15 years old. Esav and Yaakov, twins, are 15 years old. And the reason that Avraham died then was so that he should not have to witness his grandson behaving in this way. Why do we know that Avraham died early? Because later, Yitzchak says that he's getting old and his days are coming close to, that's another point. But we know that he's getting, that Avraham died early because Yitzchak, his son, lived till 180. And Avraham lived to 175. Yitzchak lived to 180, so why didn't Avraham also live to 180? Why did he pass away at 175? 5 years earlier? So the sages say that he passed away 5 years earlier than what he should have, so that he can be spared this agony of watching Esav go off to a bad way. Our sages also say, why was Esav tired? What was he tired from? Well, it wasn't just a regular hunt. He had that day committed murder. He hunted a person. His hunting wasn't just hunting animals, now he's hunting people. And the sages say that he murdered Nimrod on that day. And he took his coat. Nimrod was a king that had this special coat that was passed down from all the way back from Noah, from Adam, and this coat he wanted, so he killed Nimrod. And obviously, going from hunting to now murder was the reason that Avram would have had great pain. And,
not in Torah, right?
No, this is commentators that say that this is Midrash, yeah. Now, he comes back, and now he's so tired, he disregards the importance of the Bechorah, and he's gone to a bad path. Now, Yitzchak later still wants to give him the blessings, even though he knows that his son is not such a great person. Why did he want to give him the blessing? So he said already that Esav potentially, he has the potential to overcome all this negative desire and to be a great person and to use this negative energy in a good way. Yitzchak wanted to bless him so that he should have the power to take that power, to take that energy that he has and use it in a good way. So Yitzchak knew that Esav has got problems and that he has a strong inclination towards being wild. That was part of the description when he was born. That he was wild, he was a person of the field, he was a hunter. Yitzchak knew that very well about his son, but he wanted to give him the blessings because Yitzchak thought and Yitzchak believed that if he gives him the blessings, he'll give Esav the ability, that extra spiritual energy to overcome his challenges. And by doing that, to reach even greater heights than Yaakov can reach. Problem was that, and really this is something that Rivka noticed. Rivka that told Yaakov that he should go and get the blessings. Rivka knew that Esav had gone too far and that there was no ability for Esav to use these blessings in a good way. Rivka foresaw that if Esav would get the blessings, he wouldn't turn around and use it to overcome his evil inclination, but she knew that Esav would take those blessings and cause even more damage. Now, why did Rivka see this when Yaakov didn't? Why did Rivka see this when Yitzchak didn't? Why did Yitzchak think that Esav can use these blessings and he'll do good things with it? Why did Rivka think that? Why were they on a different page here? Why didn't they both agree about whether it's a good idea to give the blessings to Esav? Rivka had a good point. Yitzchak had a good point. But why was Rivka so convinced that this wasn't going to work? We look at their background, we perhaps have the answer. Mm-hmm. Rivka grew up with people like Esav. She had a brother, Lavan. She had a family that wasn't such a righteous family like Avram's family. She's seen it. She recognized it. She saw Esav's behavior. That's not going to turn around. Yitzchak grew up, Avram and Sarah. A nice upbringing, and he didn't think that Esav was a lost case. He thought that they can still get that from, give him the blessings and Esav will turn around. But Rivka, with her experience, she saw that this wasn't going to work. At the end, Yitzchak agrees to Rivka's perspective after the fact, right? So Yitzchak first calls Esav and he tells him, I'm going to give you blessings. Go and bring me a meal. Go and hunt a meal for me. And he goes. But while he's there, Rivka overheard what happened, and she tells Yaakov, I want you to go and bring me 2 goats from my goats, and I'll prepare it the way your father likes it, and go and get the blessings. And, by the way, Yaakov didn't have a choice now to go or not. He has to honor his parents. As much as deceiving his father Yitzchak would be disrespect, his mother clearly commands him that he should go and do this. So he's kind of caught in between, right? His mother tells him to do this, So his best option was his father didn't tell him not to. And he tries not to lie to his father. He says, I am your firstborn son, Esav. Our sages say that he said, I am your firstborn son, Esav. Your firstborn son is Esav. I am who I am. Your firstborn son is Esav. But that's obviously just trying to not say an explicit lie. But he had to listen to his mother. His mother clearly told him, you got to do this. So he listens to what his mother tells him. But anyway, after he goes and he gets the blessings, when he goes in, it says that Yitzchak smelled his clothing, and he said, the smell of your clothing is like the smell of a field that God blessed. So you just say the aroma of Gan Eden. And the sages also derive from here that everyone leaves the atmosphere around them. And the good deeds that we do creates the atmosphere of Gan Eden around us. So we have this Gan Eden bubble around us from all the good things that we do. The negative things that we do is a Gehenna atmosphere that it builds. So when Yaakov approached his father Yitzchak, he said the smell of your clothing. He wasn't just talking about that his clothes smells good, but that the atmosphere around his son Yaakov is the atmosphere of Gan Eden, the atmosphere of a beautiful, holy atmosphere. Later, after he gives him the blessings, and Esav comes, it says that Esav walked in and he asks, who are you? And he says, I am Esav, your firstborn. It says that Yitzchak trembled. And the commentators explain, why did he tremble? He saw Gehenna open before him. He saw hell open up in front of him. Where was this hell coming from? Well, the atmosphere around Esav was a bubble of Gehenna. And when Yitzchak responds to Esav, he says, Esav is crying, he came and took my blessings, and he says, I'm Esav. So Yitzchak, his response is, who came and took your blessings? Let him be blessed. So who was the one that came and took the blessings? But he doesn't say, I take him back. Let him be cursed for fooling me. He says, no. Who's the one that came and took the blessings? Let him be blessed. So he reiterates the blessings. And then when Esav begs, can you give me some blessings? He said, I'm sorry, I already gave it all. I gave it all away to your brother. He doesn't try to undo it or take it back or curse. He says, I'm sorry, I gave the blessings to your brother. And then Esav pleads some more. He says, do you have no extra blessings? You only have one blessing. How about maybe something you got for me? And then Yitzchak gives him some blessings too. But what we see from that back and forth, from that dialogue, is that Yitzchak had no regrets about what he did. He was satisfied with his blessing to Yaakov. Why was he satisfied? Why did he change his mind suddenly? He wanted to give the blessings to Esav. He was determined to do that. Why was he okay with being fooled? He doesn't seem to be angry about it. We don't find later in the Torah that he calls Yaakov and says, why'd you do that? You troublemaker, you tricked me. He doesn't have any complaints to Yaakov. Just strange. You'd think, if a child, deceives his father with something so big like stealing the blessings, the father should be angry at him. But we don't find that Yitzchak is angry at all. Esav is angry. We understand why, right? He says he wants to kill Yaakov, but why is Yitzchak? Why is Yitzchak okay? So, Chassidus, it's explained that when Yitzchak saw that Yaakov is able to wear Esav's clothing, then he realized Yaakov can do it too. He thought that Yaakov was a person, like he's described in the beginning, a Yoshev Halim. He dwells in the tents, he studies Torah, he prays, but he doesn't know how to deal with the world. He can't go out there. Esav can get out there, he can really affect the world. Yaakov, he's a simple, straightforward, simple person, dwells in the tent. He's very learned, but what's he going to do with the blessings? We have a mission to do to change the world, not just to sit inside and study. So he didn't want to give him the blessings at first. But when he saw that Yaakov was capable, when necessary, to put on Esav's garments, the garments that are the field garments, the garments that are the way that he can go out and deal with the world, that he can go out and handle a situation like going and pretending to be Esav, that he can be Yaakov inside and still act in an Esav way, do the Esav motions while inside staying Yaakov. Like he says, Hakol kol Yaakov hayadayim yedei Esav, the voice is the voice of Yaakov, and the hands are the hands of Esav. You're capable of doing both, of being Yaakov inside, and your voice is the voice of Yaakov, and at the same time, being able to have the hands of Esav and going out there and dealing with real world problems and issues and being able to handle it, then, you know what? That was Yaakov. I have no regrets. Let him be blessed. He's going to do a great job. And I'm sorry, Esav, I've got nothing for you, right? Yaakov is going to do it. Yaakov has got both advantages. Both has the voice of Yaakov, but when necessary, he can have the hands of Esav. He's got it all. And that's why he doesn't take it back. He's not upset about it. And we don't find that Yitzchak is angry at Rivka either for planning this whole thing. It all goes very smoothly. Just want to add another thought about the beginning of the Torah portion. In the beginning, earlier on in the portion, we read about Yitzchak digging wells. And at first glance, it seems like it's just a story about his business, right? Yitzchak, he's a businessman, and he's doing business. He's successful. He's digging wells all in the desert. That's the only way you get water. If you dig a well, he digs a well, and there's a fight about it. He digs another well, and there's again a fight about it, and finally they dig a third well, and it's all good. Why do we need to know all of this? What's the message for us from this? What's the importance of these stories? And you can be sure that over Yitzchak lived for 180 years. There must have been a lot of other things that went on with his business. Why specifically this story about digging one well and the fight, and digging another well and the fight, and digging a third well, and finally it's working out? What's so significant about the story that out of all the things that happened in Yitzchak's life, this is what we should know about, and specifically these wells? The Ramban Moshe ben Nachman, he says that these wells were not just, these are not just wells. These wells represent the future Batei Mikdash, future temples that his descendants would be digging. Digging a well is you're finding a good water in the middle of a desert to supply irrigation for the area. The temple is a source of life, a source of spiritual life and material life, a source of all blessings. Yitzchak's digging of the wells and what happens to Yitzchak was a hint to what would happen later with Yitzchak's descendants. The first well doesn't work out. The second well doesn't work out. The second well, when it says that it didn't work out, he calls it Sitna. Sitna is related to the arguing and fighting, not getting along. The sages say that the second temple was destroyed because of fighting, hatred, sinas chinam, unjust hatred, and all of that fighting. So the wells that don't work out, and each one with its problem, the first well corresponds to the first temple, the second well to the second temple, and finally the third well, he goes and digs another well, and there was no fight. It worked out, and he calls the well Rehovot, like the city in Israel, Rehovot. I don't know if that's the city of Rehovot. They named it in connection with this well or something else. But they call it Rehovot. He calls it Rehovot because now God has widened made the light to be more broad and easy. He's provided for us in a very generous way. And we're going to be fruitful in the land. And that third well works out. And there's no fights about it. It goes, lasts permanently. Sages similarly tell us that unlike the first two temples in Jerusalem, the third one, like the third well, will also be one where there will be no fights, there will be no problems, there will be smooth sailing, and spiritually and materially, Mashiach, not like the earlier two wells, the earlier two temples. Another thought. Esav got married at the age of 40. So that he married two Hittite women. At the end of the Torah portion, we read that after Yitzchak sent Yaakov to go and get married to a woman from the family, so Esav marries an additional woman. He marries Machalat, the daughter of Ishmael, his cousin. And the last verse in this Torah portion says he married her and he took her in addition to his other wives. We know that the other wives, Yitzchak and Rivka, did not like his other wives. Why? Says that the commentators explain why not. So that they were idol worshippers and they did not change their behavior after they married Esav. They continued to be idol worshipping. Yishmael's daughter,
they burned
incense, and the smoke was damaging. And so some of the commentators say that that's what blinded Yitzchak to begin with. The smoke of of the idol-worshipping incident. So, Esav, in marrying this woman, rather than actually changing his ways by marrying the daughter of Ishmael, it was that he took her in addition to his other wives. So even after he's trying to do a good thing, right? He sees that, oh, my parents they don't like the Hiti women. They want my brother to go marry somebody else. So he says, okay, I'll also do that. So he marries another woman, but not with the intention to actually change his ways. He doesn't divorce the idol-worshipping woman. He just marries an additional wife.
Show that he was faithful to the other one too, and didn't dump him.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That he didn't get rid of them. On the other hand, it also shows that he was doing it for a show. It wasn't if it was because he wanted his parents, to really have nachas, because he was really going to be different, then he would divorce the idol-worshipping ones and marry a new wife that's not idol-worshipping, but by telling us that he's marrying her in addition to his other wives, he's not really changing his ways. He's just pretending to change his ways. So the last two verses, it says that Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan were evil in the eyes of Isaac, his father. So he goes and marries another one, the daughter of Ishmael, in addition to his wife, not instead. So clearly emphasizing that he was not really trying to change. He was trying, but what we do see, and like you mentioned, the positive point, he was being faithful. One thing that we see that Esau, even with all of his bad behavior, he was trying to be respectful. He was still trying to honor his parents, that you can't take away from him. That even though he was behaving badly, he didn't want his parents to know about it.
You could go one step
He wanted his parents to still have nachas.
You could go one step further and say that he was hoping that these two other wives would follow the new wife and reform their ways and follow her too.
Yeah, perhaps.
I'm sure some commentary somewhere brings that out.
Yeah. So just to conclude, the rivalry between Esau and Yaakov started then, but before they were even born, the rivalry was predicted. When this one will, that they'll be, they're not going to be getting along. They'll be very different. And in Yitzchak's blessings to Esau, he says that, that if he messes up, you'll be able to take off the yoke, you'll be able to not be subservient to him. So this rivalry between Yaakov and Esau was going to continue, and did continue. It says that halacha is that Esau hates Yaakov. That's just the way it is. Esau hates Yaakov. And the trouble continued, different excuses. He tricked me, he took the blessings, but he wants to kill him. And then things lighten up a little bit. He's like, okay, I won't kill you. And then, but they never quite get along until the time of Mashiach. The prophet says that in the time of Mashiach, Uvo Moshim, Lishpot et Esav, that will come to judge the mountain of Esav, V'hayta Hashem Amucha, and then the kingdom will be for Hashem. which is a description of the time of Mashiach, that finally at the time of Mashiach will finally be that that rivalry will come to an end with Yaakov finally keeping the lead. So throughout our history, we have that up and down. The commentators also say that the Roman Empire is related to Esav. Esav was called red. He was completely, he was hairy and red. And that's related to Rome. That Rome spiritually is a offshoot of Esav. And that Roman Empire, which today is turned into the power of the Western civilization, is, the balance between the Jewish values and the Roman values, I guess, the ups and downs throughout our history, the challenges that we had with them. But ultimately, the time of Mashiach is when we'll transform all of Esav's energy, all of Esav's potential, really turn it into Yaakov's, to Yaakov's use, and take all of the energy of Western civilization, of the Roman Empire, and all of the strong attributes of Esav, and turn that into something which not only doesn't fight with Yaakov, but something that supports Yaakov. And that will be the time of Mashiach, when it all comes together, and those blessings are all channeled in the right way. Have a wonderful evening.
Remember, David was a redhead.
Yeah.
What?
That's true. Yeah.
But it also says that another reason he was called red was the porridge that they poured down his throat.
Yeah.
That's when he got the name.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
The red lentils.
It's interesting when you look at all the paintings of Mashiach, of